Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something absolutely wild. We're taking on the ultimate xenobiological thought experiment, the silver human. We're going to completely strip away the carbon that makes up, well, every single living thing on Earth, and we're going to build an alien entirely from scratch. And we're not talking about fragile flesh and bone here. We're talking about heavy metal.
Okay, let's dive into this. You've probably noticed that almost every alien in science fiction is basically just a bumpy human, right? That's actually because of a really profound scientific bias known as carbon chauvinism. It's this deeply ingrained assumption that just because life on Earth needs carbon, alien life absolutely has to as well. But honestly, the universe is infinitely creative. So what if we just tossed carbon out the window? What if life evolved from a transition metal instead?
And that brings us to our massive question for today. What if life evolved from element 47 on the periodic table, silver? Imagine a being completely built from pure silver. Let's call them the Argentum. How in the world would a creature like this eat? How would it think? And honestly, how could it possibly survive the incredibly brutal physical realities of dragging around a solid metal body?
Well, first, we've got to look at the chemistry, because right out of the gate, there's a huge hurdle. See, carbon is kind of the ultimate biological Lego brick. It forms 4 chemical bonds simultaneously, which means it easily builds the long, stable chains that make up our DNA and proteins. Silver, on the other hand, it's monovalent in its normal state. It only wants to form a single bond. It can't build those complex molecules. It just makes simple pairs. So under normal Earth conditions, silver biology is, frankly, chemically impossible. Now, what's really interesting about this is how extreme environments can just completely rewrite those chemical rules. Imagine their homeworld. Let's call it planet Argare. Instead of cozy liquid water, oxygen, and a mild 20 degrees Celsius, we're looking at a world of freezing liquid ammonia, toxic hydrogen sulfide gas, and a blistering minus 30 degrees. In this incredibly toxic primordial soup, silver atoms actually link up with sulfur to form what are called metal organic frameworks. These highly durable silver-sulfur chains step up and replace the carbon backbone entirely. But building a body out of transition metals comes with some pretty heavy consequences. Literally, think about this staggering number for a second. 1,800 pounds. That is the massive, mind-boggling weight of an Argentum that is just 6 feet tall, nearly a full ton. Because of this insane density, their home planet of Argire would actually need to have a much weaker gravitational pull, only about 40% of Earth's gravity, just to keep them from collapsing under their own weight. And to support all of that weight, their anatomy has to be radically different from ours. Our human skeleton is made of lightweight, somewhat porous calcium phosphate, but an Argentum's skeleton, it has to be constructed from hyperdense silver titanium alloys. Their bones aren't like our little femurs. They are built exactly like the massive load-bearing pillars of a skyscraper. They are designed purely to support incredible mass without crumbling. And covering those massive pillars are muscles that just completely outclass our squishy biology. You know how our muscles rely on slow chemical reactions? We use ATP, it produces lactic acid, and we get tired. The Argentum muscles, though, operate on piezoelectricity, literally generating electricity from physical pressure, along with electroactive polymers. So instead of red meat, picture lightning-fast metallic cables that contract with actual flashes of electricity. They have absolutely limitless stamina, and their movements would be these sudden bursts of sheer kinetic force. We're talking enough power to literally shatter solid concrete. Now imagine the brain required to control that kind of power. Our human nervous system uses chemical ion diffusion. We top out at maybe 120 meters per second. But the Argentine nervous system? It's made of pure silver nanowires. And since silver is literally the most electrically conductive element in the known universe, their nerve impulses would travel at significant fractions of the speed of light. Their reaction times wouldn't be measured in milliseconds, but nanoseconds. To their hyper-fast quantum processing brains, a bullet fired from a gun would look like it's just lazily drifting through the air in slow motion. But all of this extreme biology brings up a really fascinating puzzle. How exactly does a walking tank made of solid metal eat? I mean, they obviously can't process complex carbohydrates from a salad or a steak, right? That would give them absolutely zero useful energy. So how are they fueling the system? The secret is a process called photogalvanic synthesis. Their outer skin is completely embedded with biological silver halide crystals, acting exactly like living, breathing solar panels. And what's absolutely incredible about this is that it's the exact same chemistry used in early human photography. When the harsh UV light from their alien sun strikes their mirrored skin, it knocks electrons free, which creates a massive electrical gradient. It charges their entire body just like a battery. They literally drink the sun. And this brilliantly illustrates just how utterly alien their day-to-day survival really is. Because while they get their raw energy from sunlight, they still need physical mass to grow and repair all that metal, right? So their diet consists of literally drinking freezing liquid ammonia to keep their internal solvents flowing and crunching on raw mineral ores like copper and zinc. Their stomachs are highly acidic, basically corrosive vats that dissolve these raw metal ores directly into their bloodstream. Speaking of their blood, this extreme chemistry completely changes how that works too. Actually, scratch the whole idea of red blood. Oxygen would violently oxidize and destroy their internal systems. Instead, they have a sort of colloidal silver blood that operates on a mind-bending physics phenomenon called surface plasmon resonance. Basically, their microscopic silver nanoparticles absorb and reflect different light wavelengths depending on what gases they're carrying, meaning their blood actually shifts colors. It goes from a sickly pale yellow when it's starved of sulfur to a brilliant iridescent violet as it filters atmospheric gas. If an Argentine were ever cut, they wouldn't bleed red. They would bleed a puddle of liquid, shifting light. Let's move to and see how this builds their day-to-day reality, because their perception of the universe is just wild. With solid metallic nanostructure eyes, they don't just see the tiny narrow band of visible light like we do. They actually see infrared heat signatures left behind on cold rocks and sweeping ultraviolet radiation in the sky. Plus, their superconductive biology means they literally feel planetary magnetic fields to navigate. They can even sense the electrical auras of other living creatures around them. Oh, and they don't have soft little eardrums. They hear via seismic conduction. They literally feel the micro vibrations of the world traveling right up through their incredibly dense bones. But let's ground this a bit, right? Because even lightning-fast gods of metal aren't totally immortal. We humans age through cellular decay. But the Argentan faces a different, terrifying existential threat: tarnishing. Over time, the uncontrolled accumulation of environmental sulfur slowly begins to calcify their joints. As they age, their brilliant mirror-like skin starts to turn this dark, slate-gray color. This tarnish slowly invades their neural nanowires, creating electrical resistance that eats away at their terrifying speed and starts fragmenting their flowless quantum memories. And when that tarnish finally penetrates just a little too deeply, they experience total crystallization. Their internal electrical matrix completely collapses. The galvanic charge simply fades to zero, and the body freezes into a flawless, totally silent, black statue of solid silver sulfide. There are no rotting bodies on their world, just a deeply poetic landscape of these eternal metal statues, standing out against the harsh alien winds, slowly eroding over thousands of years back into the desert, just waiting to be absorbed by the next generation. Which naturally leads us to perhaps the most mind-bending question of all. If they don't rot like us, and they don't have squishy, dividing cells that undergo mitosis, how exactly does a creature made of solid metal give birth? The answer lies in the really beautiful science of crystallography, specifically a process called epitoxial growth. First, the two parents combine their genetic matrices into a single microscopic seed crystal. Once that seed is placed into a hypersaturated liquid ammonia birthing pool, the infant literally self-assembles, pulling material from the liquid molecule by molecule over the course of an Earth year. It's kind of like sequentially drawing and coloring a 3D crystal blueprint right onto a whiteboard. And to finish the process, the parents deliver a massive synchronized electrical shock, which jumpstarts the infant's neural network and, quite literally, breathes life into the metal. And you can imagine how this incredible biology would directly dictate their society. Because of those light-speed neural networks, they would operate and communicate in these blinding sequences that our human brains could scarcely comprehend. As for their architecture, you definitely wouldn't see delicate wooden floors. Their cities would have to be heavy, massive fortresses carved directly into basalt and titanium bedrock just to support their sheer weight. And because every ounce of their metabolic energy is completely tethered to the sun, a solar eclipse wouldn't just be some fun astronomical event to watch. It would literally trigger an immediate society-wide communal hibernation. So, the crucial point is, what would actually happen if we met them? The contrast in a hypothetical first contact is both totally awe-inspiring and, honestly, slightly terrifying. From our human perspective, we would be staring at indestructible, lightning-fast gods of metal and light, completely invulnerable to our weapons and totally immune to radiation. But from the Argentan perspective, we would appear as these incredibly slow, fragile, squishy sacks of water. To them, we would seem almost vegetative in our sluggish, chemically driven movements.
Please like and subscribe.